Robert Herman Julius Friedrich was born on June 30th, 1891 in Nukusa, Wisconsin, USA. Friedrich began wrestling at the age of 14. He quickly adopted the ring name Ed Strangler Lewis. The first usage of his ring name was first in Louisville, Kentucky. Friedrich did so in tribute to 1890s wrestler star Evan Strangler Lewis, who is credited for innovating the stranglehold, more commonly known today as the rear naked choke. Although Evan Lewis innovated the stranglehold, Ed Lewis had perfected it. It was also stated in the A&E documentary, The Unreal Story of Professional Wrestling, that Friedrich was dubbed the Strangler after a match in France. The French were unfamiliar with the hold, and once it was applied, the audience and his opponent thought he was strangling his opponent. Ed Strangler Lewis was the pivotal figure in the Goldust Trio, along with promoters Toots Mond and Big Willie Sando, a traveling roadshow that was the precursor to wrestling tours, and which revolutionized professional wrestling by creating undercards. Until that time, only one wrestling match would be the entire show, often having a 1 or 2 hour time limit. They also developed the first professional wrestling storylines, creating worked feuds between wrestlers. Because of the legit skills Ed Lewis possessed, the trio could put the title on whoever they wanted because Ed Lewis had the ability to defeat anyone who would not follow the script. Ed Strangler Lewis captured his first recognized World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship on December 13, 1920, defeating Joe Stecher. The World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship was the first ever recognized professional wrestling World Heavyweight Championship created in 1905 to identify the best catch-as-catch-can wrestler in the world. Joe Stecher, however, would prove to be Lewis's biggest rival both in and out of the ring, with Stecher running his own shows against the Goldust Trio, beginning quite possibly the first promotional rivalry. Lewis and Stecher wrestled one of the longest matches in professional wrestling history when they battled for 5.5 hours, ending in a draw. The climax of their feud came in April 15, 1925, when Goldust Trio star and former champion Stanislaw Zabowsko was asked to lose to the Goldust Trio's own handpicked champion, Wayne Moon, a former football star, in an effort to give Moon credibility. Zabowsko refused and secretly jumped to the Joe Stecher camp. Eventually, Lewis and Stecher settled their differences and agreed to do business with each other, with Stecher dropping the World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship back to Lewis on February 20th, 1928. In 1931, Lewis and partner Billy Sando signed former Notre Dame All-American running back Jumping Joe Savoldi to his first professional wrestling contract. Lewis was credited with training Savoldi in Los Angeles during the first half of 1931. The Golden Greek Jimmy Landos had been stripped of his New York State Athletic Commission World Heavyweight Championship on September 30th, 1932 for refusing to wrestle the #1 contender, Ed Lewis. Lewis defeated Jack Sherry at a live event in New York, on October 10th, 1932 to win the vacant New York State Athletic Commission World Heavyweight Championship. 133 days later, Lewis would lose the belt to Jim Browning on February 20th, 1933. In 1933, one of Ed Strangler Lewis's most infamous matches took place in Madison Square Garden in New York. He was defending the World Wrestling Championship in his third title reign against Ray Steele. As this match had no script, the two men began circling each other, but no fighting happened, which made the fans bored. Steele finally ended the match by punching Lewis, causing the referee to disqualify him 20 minutes into the match. On September 20th, 1934, Ed Strangler Lewis wrestled the Golden Greek Jim Landos in front of an audience of 35,275 people at Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois. The match drew a record gate of $96,302, which would stand until 1952. Ed Lewis went into semi-retirement in 1935. However, in 1937, the Strangler had 6 contests in New Zealand. He beat Floyd Marshall, John Spellman, Glenn Wade, and Rusty Westcott, and lost twice to the Canadian champion Earl McCready, who was then established as the top wrestler in New Zealand. This was his only international competitions. Ed Lewis came out of retirement in 1942 at the age of 51, despite being legally blind. On November 5th, 1942, Ed Lewis won a disputed decision over Midwest Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Champion Orville Brown. On November 26, 1942, in Kansas City, Kansas, Ed Lewis won the rematch, earning his only Midwest Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship. Ed Strangler Lewis retired from professional wrestling for good in 1948 at 57 years old. Ed Lewis had gone completely blind from trachoma. He died in New York, New York on August 8, 1966, at the age of 75. Today, a Wisconsin State historical marker commemorates his achievements in his hometown of Nakusa on Prospect Ave. In 2002, Ed Strangler Lewis was voted in by professional wrestlers, historians, and writers and inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam, New York. He would also become a member of the WWE Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2016.